Hi, Junior with my thoughts for today, and today we'll be focusing on, helping a little bit of, intervention or help for our friends on the left, our friends the Democrats, because they seem to be having a little, they were number one, so sure that Trump was going to lose, that Kamala Harris was going to win, that they were, what's that word that the British like so much, gobsmacked. They were gobsmacked when Trump actually won, and they haven't recovered since. And one of the problems they're having is, not being able to figure out why he won. They are still in denial to this day, which surprises me. Because there are enough polls to show that we know what Trump wants to do, and the people support him. Now, I don't know why they can't just see what is that Trump wants to do, and just recognizing that the people want to support it. And obviously, the Democrats have a different point of view, and the problem they're having is, what is their way forward? And they seem to be having a little trouble. In fact, it would not surprise me if there were chickens with their heads cut off running around various parts of the country that have a better sense of direction than some Democrats have these days. So obviously they want to win again, and I don't think I can fit this all into one vlog. So I may touch on it, but the main thing is I'm going to give them some advice. I'm going to share some advice with them on what they need to do if they want to win. And the advice doesn't really come from me. I'm just relaying it. The advice comes from, as I said in the title, Newt and Maggie. Newt Gingrich, former Republican Speaker of the House, and Margaret Thatcher, former Prime Minister of England, conservative. And let me just put this in here, that one reason I'm sharing this advice is because I really do think that you may think I'm a conservative, and you may therefore think that I'm a Republican, and I am not. I'm an independent. And I've been, circumambulating it in my head, preparing in my mind vlogs critical of Trump, because there are things he does I support. There are things things that he is doing that I have real problems with. So I'll probably get to but today we're talking about Democrats. And so I do believe that we need a viable second party, because neither party has all the answers. And the Republican Party, as much as I would say 75% support the Republican agenda, they don't have all the answers. And plus the parties do switch. The White House and Congress does switch parties every so often, and it's inevitable, no matter how far to the left, how far from the mainstream the Democrats move, that a Republican will screw up so badly that we would elect, not with my vote probably. You never know. If a Republican screws up so much, you might say, I have to hold my nose and vote for the Democrats. So I would want them to be reasonable and have common sense and share the basic values on which this country is founded. I don't see that today. But if they want to win, I'm going to share this advice now. As I said, Newt Gingrich and Margaret Thatcher. We'll start with Margaret Thatcher first, conservative leader, and in my lifetime, the best prime minister that England has had. Based on my limited following of British politics. But anyways, she's very simple. She said, if you want to win, there are two steps. Step one, win the argument. Step two, win the election. It is really that simple. The Democrats simply have to make their argument and win the argument. And the problem that they're having, let's be honest, Democratic friends, that you're losing the argument. We had the argument just last November. Trump won, and you are shocked. You can't believe that he won, but he did. And he basically won by saying what he was going to do, and the Democrats lost by basically just calling him a fascist, and he's Hitler, and democracy, it's a threat to democracy, yada, 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 and not saying what they would do. Say what you want to do, defend your beliefs, and win the argument. And if you do that, if you win the argument, if the people are on your side, then you will win the election. It's really that, well, as Reagan said, another Republican, some things there are things in life that are simple but not easy, and this is a prime case. That it's very simple, just win the argument and win the election, but it's not always so easy, as the Democrats are finding out. And the problem they're having is you have all these people. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and the squeaky wheel in the Democratic Party is their far left that are out in the streets screaming and yelling, and even you have members of Congress, supposedly responsible leaders, acting like little babies on the floor of the House of Representatives in a joint speech of the president that was only a week ago, and more or less, and in front of the whole country seeing it, and that Al Green shaking his cane, and the Democrats, some of them holding up the bingo paddles and with various slogans on it. And then you have, and wearing pink, the women wearing pink for some women's issue, I don't know. And then there's a whole thing people don't know. And then sitting on their hands for not applauding a kid with cancer who survived, brain cancer survivor, expected to live five months, and he's around still 5 years later. And he always wanted to be a police officer. He's wearing a little child's pretend police uniform, and the head of the Secret Service makes him a Secret Service, and it wasn't, they said honorary, but Trump said that he didn't say honorary, he said member of Secret Service. So who knows, maybe the kid will be guarding the president someday, but hopefully when he gets a little bigger. But the point is, and here's the irony, because I mentioned Al Green shaking his cane. That kid is from Al Green's district. Al Green, well, he was ejected, but if you can be sure if he were there, I'm pretty sure if he had not been ejected, he would be sitting on his hand for and not applauding a brain cancer survivor having a dream come true from his own district. That's how far off they've gotten. But that is not argument. That's my point. That is not arguing. What is arguing? What is an example of winning the argument? And that brings us to Newt Gingrich, because he did it. He did it, and this is how he did it. First, what did he do? In Bill Clinton's first term, elected in 1990, and he goes far to the left. Hillary Care, remember that? And then, so the Republicans, they had not won control. There were a couple times when they controlled the Senate, but they had not controlled the House for over, I think, 44 years, since the 1920s, I think. It was quite a long time, and the Republicans, they want control of the Senate, of the House for the first time in decades. How did they do it? And you did not see you did not see Republicans, waving silly signs and burning effigies and marching in the streets and shouting and screaming. This is what you did see. What you saw was Newt Gingrich on the floor. It was a very clever tactic. It was Newt Gingrich and another guy, Bob, I don't remember his last name, but what they did was, this was in the days, C-SPAN, they show the House, what's going on in the House and the Senate whenever somebody, they're in session or whatever. But what they did not do in those days, this is the really clever part, is that they did not show the whole chamber. They would just have one camera focusing on, if you know what the House looks like, you have the people, well, you just saw it in the joint speech, but you have the big auditorium type part, and then you have a lectern in front, and when somebody is going to speak, they come to the front and they turn around and they face all the other members, and they speak. And there was only one camera. The C-SPAN would have only one camera showing the person speaking. And the clever part was that Newt Gingrich and the other guy, they realized this, so they would get up after the session would close. The day's session would finish. The representatives would leave, and then Gingrich or the other guy would get up to the lectern and start speaking and making the argument. And the clever part was the camera never showed you didn't know that to prove that the place was empty, that they were the only person. That when Gingrich was speaking, he was the only, and maybe the other guy was there. They were the only ones there, and whoever was operating the camera, and that's it. And maybe a pro, somebody sitting on the dais behind for official reasons to be there. And they would just talk. They could talk because if you watch the regular debate, because there's so many members, usually they'll assign each member, each party will get, say, an hour, control an hour of time, and then they would say, okay, the chair recognizes Representative Joe Blow for 2 minutes or whatever, and they come up and speak. But these guys would wait until the session was over, and they would get behind this lectern, and they would talk as long as they wanted, and they made the argument. And that was one of the factors in winning. Now, the other factor in winning was what you saw in the thumbnail to this vlog. So there's Newt Gingrich and several Republicans behind them. Contract with America. Under the leadership of Newt Gingrich, the Republicans put together a platform, a contract with America, and Trump did the very same thing. Contract with America, a list of 10 things that they promised that they would do. And they did, I believe, all of them, or almost all of them. And some of them were just very simple, easy to do. Term limits for chairman of committees and things like that. But they just made all these promises, but they made a platform of what they would do. And then they would argue, they would say, this is what we're going to do. And then you would have Gingrich would get up there and just talk and make the argument for everything they were going to do. And they won the argument and they won the election. And that is what the Democrats should do if they're smart, but they're not. And they won't, I think. But even the far left should understand the utility of doing something like this. That lectern is still there. Now they have multiple cameras, so people will see that the camera will pan around, and you'll see that somebody is speaking to an empty chamber. But so what? You still have the person making the argument, and we have cable, and we have the internet, we have MSNBC, we have CNN, we have the main. There's so many places where they can simply make the argument, and we have to ask, why are they not doing it? And I think it's because this will be another vlog. I'll end here. I think it deserves an entire vlog to be dedicated to it. But I think it's because they know they would lose the argument. If they get up there and say what they want to do and argue for what they want to do, they will lose the argument. It's that simple. And that's the only reason why. Well, that's the only reason I can think of why they're not doing it, because it makes so much sense. But that is also, as I said earlier, that is why I'm sharing this advice, because I know they won't do it. And I guess I'll end there. Thanks for stopping by. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.